women never say out loud. What if people don't actually like me? What if they only like the version of me that smiles at the right time, that answers the text, that says yes, that tolerates the noise, that remembers the social script and never asks anyone to adjust? If that fear lives in you, unmasking does not just feel like a cute self-discovery exercise. It feels dangerous, and I understand that. I'm Dr. Sarah, a physician in a late diagnosed neurodivergent women, and I want to talk about unmasking without romanticizing it because just be yourself is a terrible advice when you and we were taught that being ourselves has consequences. Okay. Listen, researchers often call masking camouflaging. We've known this, we've heard this word before. It can include things like what? Suppressing natural movements, copying facial expressions, rehearsing conversations, forcing eye contact when it doesn't feel good. Who's ever done that, right? Monitoring your tone, hiding confusion, pretending sensory discomfort doesn't bother you, and studying other people so you can produce the response that seems like what they want. Okay. And sometimes masking is deliberate, right? But often it's been automatic and we've been almost taught how to do it, right? It's really, I think, a survival mechanism. You may not even know where the mask ends because you've been building it before you had language for what you were actually protecting, right? For many of us, the lesson was not explicit. Nobody sat us down and said, hide your neurodivergence. The lesson arrived through reactions. Be less intense. Stop interrupting. Don't be so sensitive. Why are you making that face? You're too loud. You're too quiet. You're over the top. All of the things that we've heard, right? You're smart. Why don't you just do that over there, right? Over time, we've learned which version of us received warmth and which version of us created friction. Of course, we've concluded the acceptable version was the performed one, right? The one people, society said we should be. Okay. The camouflaging literature consistently describes exhaustion, anxiety, identity confusion, and the painful sense of not knowing. Um, it- it's insane to me, right? Much of this work is qualitative, but the pattern is very clear to make and have us take this seriously. Constant self-monitoring has a significant cost. It has a significant cost to us. Okay. Masking may help us get through school, work, medical school, help me get through medical school, the military, right? Me too. Parenting or relationships. It can protect employment or physical or social safety. Masking is not actually always maladaptive. It's actually quite one of the reasons the way we do adapt, and that is important. It's a strategy, though, right? It's a strategy to overcome a societal norm. The problem is when a survival strategy becomes a full-time identity and we can no longer tell what we need until our body collapses. And then the fear is real, right? There is a real fear. What if I stim in front of someone? The fear is real, right? What if I become less convenient? What if I say the restaurant's too loud, I want to go somewhere else? What if I need more time to answer? And I'll give you a good example of this. I was asked to go to a like women's retreat and they were doing a sound bath. There was a sound there that was it was so unbearable to me that I got up and left. And I thought to myself, and I'm a doctor, I know this. I thought to myself, oh my, like she's going to think I'm rude, I'm this, I'm that. But I could not tolerate it. Okay. And that's why unmasking can trigger guilt and grief and fear of rejection. Now, thankfully, she was okay. I said, my neurodivergence could not handle that sound. That was terrible. And she was cool with it. But that's the first thing that played in my head. It wasn't, hey, Dr. Tara, you need to get out of here because this doesn't feel safe for you. This isn't bothering you. It was, oh no, what if she's mad at me? Right? I was protecting her. Okay. I was protecting her. I won't lie to you and say everyone will love the unmasked version of you because that's not true. And that's not even life. No, we're not, nobody can please everyone, right? Some people prefer the version of us that does never say no. Some relationships are organized around us over functioning. Some people may interpret a new boundary as a personality change because they were uncomfortable with yourself with your self-awareness. Their discomfort does not mean that you are doing something wrong. It may mean that that relationship is being asked to become more honest. And guess what? Sometimes relationships aren't meant to last. If you don't like the who I really am, then maybe it's time that you're not in my life, right? Many of us begin questioning the mask in midlife because maintaining it becomes harder for us, right? The life load is heavier, sleep is disrupted, we're adding in estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone dysfunctions. Our nervous system has fewer empty hours to recover. And after decades of meeting everyone else's expectations, a new question begins to surface for us, which is, do I even like the life I built while trying to be accepted? That's a personal question and it's real, right? And the question isn't selfish and it's actually can be the beginning of health, even though I know it doesn't feel like that. Okay. This is where social media gets unmasking wrong. You do not need to reveal everything to everyone. Okay. You do not owe anybody anything. You don't owe strangers your diagnosis. You don't have to stop using every social skill you learned. You don't need to remove a protective strategy in an unsafe workplace with your family, community, or relationships, right? Authenticity without safety is not healing, and sometimes it is simply exposure. Unmasking should be chosen, gradual, and context aware. Do it where you feel safe to do it, okay? And you don't have to completely unmask all at once. Start with level one, which I like to call notice. Notice what you do when nobody's watching. What lighting feels better? Like, I do not sit in my office with overhead light on. And I tell my patients when they come in, are you okay with no overhead light? Now, I deal with a lot of neurodivergent patients, so most of them are. Okay. What conversations leave you depleted? I'll give you a good example. I love my mom, but sometimes talking to her can leave me really depleted. So I chose for 2 days not to because I needed to take a time for myself. Okay, take time for myself. And that's okay. One safe relationship. Choose someone trustworthy and make one small honest request. I need more time before I answer. I cannot do two social events this weekend. The noise is making it hard for me to think. Okay. Just pick that safe space and say one thing. Okay. And also, I want selective disclosure for accommodation. So maybe it's at work, maybe it's in healthcare or with relationships. Decide what information is necessary to support the need. Sometimes you share the diagnosis, sometimes you simply just name the accommodation. You control the pace, and that's the biggest piece of this. Healthy unmasking should gradually increase self-understanding and reduce unnecessary strain. Here's what I don't think it is and what I don't want it to be is becomes permission to ignore other people's boundaries, abandon responsibility, or treat every discomfort as proof that the environment must change, right? Your needs matter, and so do the needs of others. Okay, so because I've seen this swing to the extreme. The goal isn't to replace one performance with another performance, right? Called being authentically neurodivergent. The goal is to become less divided inside of yourself. The real you was never the problem. Okay. We learned to hide because hiding helped us belong, fit in this societal neurotypical norm, right? That doesn't work for us. So now we decide where we're safe enough to be seen, okay? And we don't owe anybody anything, and we don't owe anybody immediate access to ourselves. And this is a work in progress, ladies, okay? I've unmasked in a certain situation, then I'm like, ooh, that wasn't the right one, right? That wasn't the right one. My recommendation is just start small, okay? One honest preference, kind of like at that event, right? It's like, oh no, 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 this is too much for me. Or I'll give you another one. Another girl asked, hey, will you come to this event? And they were doing restorative yoga. What I know about myself is that my neurodivergent brain does not do well sitting in one position for a long time thinking. Okay, that is not restorative to me. That is not comforting to me. That does not help me. That actually makes me more anxious. So I said, thank you so much for the invite. I would love to support you X, Y, and Z. This is not an event that really works well for my brain. So I would be happy to participate in another event, and that is okay. Okay. And whether they accepted that or not, which they did, but whether they accepted that or not, I did not want to put myself in that situation where I was uncomfortable, right? It was a weekend. I wanted to be able to relax, and I wasn't going to go do something that made me uncomfortable just for the sake of this relationship with someone else. And I had to that wasn't an easy decision. I had to work through that. And I had to say, well, if she doesn't like me for that, okay, well, sir, is that really the right relationship you want to be in? Is that the right collaboration you want if they can't understand that this isn't something that works for you? And in the end, it worked out. But those are the things that we're talking about. Small, slow. You control the pace of this. And work in a group, work in a community, work in a tribe. That's why we do this. It's why we have the Substack. That's why we have these communities so we can work through those things together. And you may do something and then be like, oh man, that was probably not right. Come bring those conversations. Let's have those conversations with each other. Okay, so what are you going to do this week? What is the one thing you're going to do? I want you to notice. I want you to just notice this week what makes you overstimulated, what makes you feel good, what makes you feel repleted. Okay.